Christian Horner has been fired while Adrian Newey is gone, and the 2026 engine is reportedly a disaster. Red Bull Racing isn't just facing a new season, because they are staring into the abyss. It is December 27, 2025, and the Formula One world has never looked this fractured. Just 5 months ago, Christian Horner was removed from his post as team principal to end a 20-year reign that built a dynasty. Laurent Mekies has stepped in, but the damage might already be done. While Max Verstappen somehow dragged the RB21 to a 5th consecutive Drivers' Championship this year, the cracks are gaping holes in the hull of a sinking ship. The team lost the Constructors' title to McLaren, marking the first time in years that Red Bull didn't take home the double. That failure pales in comparison to the whispers coming out of Milton Keynes about the 2026 car, because this is about survival rather than just a new regulation cycle. The Ford partnership is under immense pressure as the engine project battles severe setbacks, and the man who designed their greatest cars is now working for the enemy at Aston Martin. Everyone is wondering if the Red Bull era is officially over. The panic truly begins with the power unit, because Red Bull is building their own engine for the first time in history. They have no Honda safety net or Renault backup, relying solely on Red Bull Powertrains and Ford. The reports are terrifying, given that Laurent Mekies didn't even try to hide the struggle last week. He admitted they have a massive challenge to climb before the first race in March, which is not the language of a man confident in his package. Dyno data leaked earlier this year suggested the combustion engine was down on power compared to the 2026 Mercedes unit. While the electrical side is supposedly decent thanks to Ford's input, the integration is causing headaches. Max Verstappen drove the simulator recently and said the engine sounds crisp, but he conspicuously avoided talking about the speed. A crisp sound doesn't win races compared to raw speed. Rumors suggest the Red Bull Ford unit is heavy, complex, and reliability is a massive question mark. If they start 2026 with an engine deficit, not even Max can save them. July 2025 changed everything when the news broke that Christian Horner was leaving effectively immediately. This was an earthquake rather than just a personnel change, because the power struggle that began way back in 2024 finally snapped. The Austrian side of the business won, and Horner was out. Mekies came in from Racing Bulls to pick up the pieces, but you cannot simply replace 2 decades of leadership overnight. The internal structure is chaotic, because key allies of Horner have either left or been sidelined. The steady hand that guided the team through the 2021 title fight and the dominant 2023 season is gone. We are seeing a team trying to rebuild its identity while simultaneously developing the most complex car in F1 history. Morale at Milton Keynes is reportedly at an all-time low, and staff turnover has spiked. The siege mentality that Horner was so good at cultivating has been replaced by genuine uncertainty. They are fighting their own internal confusion, in addition to Mercedes and Ferrari. While Red Bull scrambles, Adrian Newey is calm, since he started at Aston Martin on March 1st of this year. Aston Martin has already confirmed the launch date for their 2026 Challenger on February 9th, because they are ready. Newey has been described by Lance Stroll as being in a trance and completely obsessed with the new active aero regulations. He is likely finding loopholes that Red Bull used to find, rather than just designing a car. For 20 years, Newey was Red Bull's secret weapon, but now he is their biggest threat. The RB22 is the first chassis in nearly 2 decades that Newey hasn't touched, not even a single sketch. Pierre Wache is a brilliant engineer, but he is taking on the role of the greatest designer the sport has ever seen. If the Aston Martin comes out of the box 2 seconds faster because Newey found a trick with the Venturi tunnels, Red Bull will have no answer. If you are finding this exploration of Red Bull's crisis interesting, please subscribe and enable notifications, since we cover breaking F1 stories like this every single week. Let us continue with the analysis. The 2026 cars are going to be strange, because the regulations demand active aerodynamics, with wings that move on the straights to reduce drag. It sounds futuristic, but the reality in the simulator has been a nightmare. Early tests showed cars spinning out on straights when the rear wing opened while the engine was still pushing. They've had to introduce Z mode for high downforce and X mode for low drag. Drivers are already complaining that it feels like driving a computer instead of a race car. Red Bull is struggling to correlate their wind tunnel data with these new active systems, because their historic strength was always static aero. This new approach requires perfect synchronization between the software the hydraulics, and the driver. If the system lags by even a millisecond, the car becomes unstable. Rumors from the factory floor suggest the RB22 is behaving unpredictably in sims, snapping oversteer in high-speed corners when the aero balance shifts, which is a total mess. Max Verstappen is still a Red Bull driver for the moment, but his contract through 2028 contains very real exit clauses. We know there was a clause linked to Helmut Marko that was supposedly removed, but new reports suggest a performance clause remains. If Red Bull is not in the top 3 of the Constructors' Championship by the midpoint of 2026, Max can leave. Mercedes is waiting since Toto Wolff has been spotted talking to the Verstappen camp multiple times this year. With George Russell's contract situation always a topic of debate and Kimi Antonelli still learning the ropes, a seat at Mercedes is available for the right price. Max has been loyal by staying through the Horner scandal and the 2024 dip, but he is a racing animal who wants to win. If the Ford engine is slow, he won't hesitate to trigger that clause and leave for 2027. He has already said that he is not here to drive in the midfield. The pressure from America is increasing because Ford didn't return to Formula One to finish 5th. CEO Jim Farley was at the team launch recently and stated bluntly that they need to win. Ford is pouring millions into this project because they view it as a major marketing play for their electric vehicle technology. They cannot afford a public embarrassment. If the Red Bull Ford engine fails on live TV in Bahrain, or if it is slow, the corporate fallout will be immediate. There are already rumors of culture clashes because the F1 team wants to work quickly while the corporate giant wants processes and sign-offs. Mekis is stuck in the middle, trying to keep the racers happy while managing the boardroom in Detroit. This friction slows down development, which is critical since speed of decision-making is everything in F1. If they have to wait for an email from Michigan to approve a piston redesign, they have already lost. The partnership looks impressive externally, but the internal relationship is difficult. People often miss that the departures extended beyond Horner and Newey. When a regime falls, the soldiers scatter, as seen when Jonathan Wheatley left for Audi and strategy expert Will Courtney went to McLaren. The talent loss at Milton Keynes has been severe because these were the people who made the split-second calls that won races. They were the ones who knew how to fix a car in 20 minutes on a chaotic Sunday. Replacing them with fresh talent takes time because you cannot teach graduates 10 years of trackside instinct in 6 months. The pit wall in 2026 will look completely different with new voices on the radio and different faces on the screens. That loss of institutional memory is dangerous. When the pressure is on in Q3 and the rain starts falling, the decision used to belong to Wheatley or Horner. Now it falls to a new group who haven't worked under that pressure together yet. While Red Bull deals with these issues, their rivals are quietly confident since Ferrari has been working on their 2026 engine for 3 years. They have the advantage of continuity because they didn't have to build a factory from scratch. Lewis Hamilton enters his 2nd year in red and is reportedly excited about the numbers coming out of Maranello. Then there is Mercedes, who nailed the 2014 regulations and are confident they have done it again. Their engine is rumored to be the benchmark, with massive electrical efficiency. Audi has also taken over Sauber completely, and they have been running their engine on the dyno since late 2023. They might be rookies, but they have resources that make even Red Bull look small. The grid is closing up compared to 2023, when Red Bull could afford a mistake and still win. In 2026, a mistake means Q1 elimination, because the safety margin is gone. The competition is closing in, and Red Bull looks vulnerable. This situation signals a potential shift in leadership for the sport. The 2026 regulations were designed to level the playing field, but they might just invert it. If Red Bull falls, the vacuum at the top will be filled instantly. We could see a return to the chaotic seasons of 2010 or 2012, with 4 teams fighting for the title. This is the defining moment of Max Verstappen's career, as he must decide whether to rebuild the team like Schumacher did with Ferrari or chase the fastest car. His decision will shape the driver market for the next 5 years. A struggling Red Bull is actually good news for Formula One, because dominance is boring, while chaos is entertainment. The empire that Mateschitz built is shaking, and the next 12 months will determine if it survives. The time of predictable results has ended. The 2026 championship represents a completely new reality, rather than just a new season. Red Bull is struggling significantly, and the deadline is approaching. Anyone thinking the drama has finished has not been watching closely.